I know you've been asking for that Zoroark and Mega Lucario deck profile here on the channel, and in today's video, we're going to give it to you. Let's mash up these two archetypes together to see if it has enough damage output to overthrow the meta decks in the format right now and not to suck. I'm PJ here with How Not to Suck TCG, and let's cover Mega Lucario and Zoroark. You know it, you love it, Zoroark and Lucario are back together and we see them performing in the meta. No, not this list. That's an older list and those cards are no longer legal for standard format. But we do see some Zoroark and Mega Lucario EX combining forces and taking over some of the biggest meta decks currently right now. We're combining forces with Zoroark here, which has the trade ability just like in years past with the power output of Mega Lucario EX, forcing them together in a relationship that nobody ever saw coming, and we're going to give this deck to you. Now, this deck profile comes from Lake Lebrano, who finished 102nd at the most recent Milwaukee 2025 Regional Championship. Now, the deck is nothing to scoff at because it does have a lot of cool cards in the engine, as well as an awesome damage output from Mega Lucario EX. We're going to see exactly how much power output this deck has, so we'll be covering the cards one at a time. First up, we've got 4 Zorua that help you evolve into your Zoroark. Zoroark EX allows us to use the ability Trade, which is actually a busted ability because you get to get rid of resources in your hand in order to draw 2 more cards every turn. Night Joker is an awesome attack for 2 dark energy, allows you to copy any of your Pokemon on your bench. Now, the only other Pokemon that we do play is Reshiram. We have 2 of those in the list here, and it has 2 attacks. One is Powerful Rage that does 20 damage plus 20 more damage for every damage counter on your Pokemon. Now, this can be copied by Night Joker and output for a massive amount of damage. Now, if Zoroark, for instance, takes 270 damage, that's going to put out double the amount of damage onto your opponent's Pokemon. So we do want to be tanking hits with Zoroark in order to get Powerful Rage to pop off. Now, the secondary attack, Virtuous Flame, does a whopping 170 damage, which might be pretty low on the spectrum of all damage output in the game right now, but it does hit for Dark Weakness on Zoroark, which is really good into decks like Gardevoir EX. Now, the next fighting combo that we have here is going to be the Mega Lucario EX line, where we've got 2 Riolu and 2 Mega Lucario EX. Now, Riolu, you can really use any Riolu that you have available as long as they don't have 2 retreat and they have a decent amount of hit points. We want to stray away from anything with 60 HP or less, and we want to make sure that we have exactly 1 retreat cost. Mega Lucario EX is really what we want to talk about here. It does have a fighting type, which is really good for decks that play Mega Kangaskhan EX. Now, we can use Aura Jab that does 130 damage and also is able to place some energy onto our benched Pokemon, so you can load up for a secondary Mega Lucario. Now, Mega Brave is really the attack that we want to talk about here because for 2 fighting energy, we can do an amazing 270 damage. Now, that's really good into a lot of decks that have those beefier EX Pokemon that are sitting on their bench, and maybe even closing out late game against a Fezandipiti or even a Blood Moon Ursaluna. So having 270 and being able to hit into decks that have fighting weak Pokemon is really good. Now, this deck does struggle against Gholdengo, so that's where we have the Toedscruel line in this list, similar to other Zoroark lists in the past, where we want to plant these cards down later on in the game or when we're trying to bait our opponent into attacking our Pokemon so they don't get knocked out and they can go ahead in the prize race. We can put down a Toedscruel on those turns, and then the next turn evolve into Toedscruel. That way we can lock them out of using things like Night Stretcher, and we can also lock them out of using Superior Energy Retrieval. Those things are what we want to protect ourselves against, and even the new Tim Dinklin deck that unfortunately uses just a standard Energy Retrieval and Night Stretchers, they are locked out of using all of those resources if they haven't compensated accordingly. We love this Furious Monkey here. He loves to bend our minds. We've got 2 Monkey Dory in this list as well. That way we can push damage from our Pokemon onto our opponent's Pokemon to hopefully swing for those bigger knockouts, or maybe even chip damage to knock out a Pokemon in the active spot so we can take a 2 prize turn or more later on in the game. So we've got Monkey Dory, which pairs nicely with the Dark Energy in the deck. We've also got 1 of Cleffa to help us with those early turn draws to get us out of sticky situations where we don't have a really great hand, and we can thin our hand out and draw with Grasping Draw so we can fill our hand back up with better cards. We do also have a Pecharunt EX, which I talked about earlier. Now, Pecharunt's really good in this deck because if we do get stalled out with something like an Yveltal from those Mega Box decks, we know that we can use Pecharunt to swap in our End Zoroark into the active spot, or maybe even a Pheasantipity if we really need to, so that way we can retreat and pivot again if we are stalled out or clutched to death in these matchups. We do have, obviously, a Pheasantipity EX to round out these Pokemon, and that helps us to draw cards, obviously, when our Pokemon are knocked out. We could even use the Cruel Arrow attack in some certain situations, but I really don't feel us using that in this type of deck. The supporter line here, we've got 3 Cyranos, which are able to get us the majority of our deck here, or at least the heavy hitters, so we can start attacking. And having 3 of them in play while you have 3 of your Enzaruas down is really good here, because then we can just trade, and we see all of our cards. We've got 3 Boss's Orders. We want to keep the Boss's Orders line high in this deck list, just because we want to make sure that we're getting all of our sniping attacks or gusting attacks when we need them. Now we have 2 Ionos to help for a little bit of disruption. Iono's not really valued as much anymore as it used to be, just because Lily's Determination is such a great card, and we still have Pheasantipity in the format. So Ionoing our opponent doesn't necessarily help us all the time, but if we know our opponent has some resources, it's still pretty good to get us some new cards, as well as just disrupting our opponent's hand. We also have 2 Hilda here, which I really love Hilda. Hilda's able to get us our Mega Lucario, our Toad Skrull. It's also able to get us our End Zoroark EX if we haven't found that. And then we can just go from there and also get energy into play, which is really good because we are playing a dual energy type for this deck list. We still have 2 Professor Turo's Scenario in case we do get stuck and we don't have Petra on the field, so we can pivot out our dark Pokemon. We do want to make sure that we're picking up our liabilities off of the board. That way we don't get stuck on an uneven prize trade. We don't want to get out-tempoed for our game, and we want to suck less. So Turo helps us suck less in a lot of games, so we want to make sure that we're utilizing Turo when we can. For our search cards, we've got 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin that allows us to get our Enzaruas out on the field, and our Riolus, really, because we know that those are going to be our primary cards. We can obviously search out our Toad School and our Cleffa with this card, but we do want to primarily focus on getting our Enzarua out. We have also got 2 Nest Ball to help us with our bigger Pokemon if we can't get them out on the field normally. I know you love to keep your PP up, so we've got 2 Ends PP up in this list, as well as 1 energy switch to help us move energy around, get it out of the discard pile, and get it onto our Pokemon when we definitely need that. We can also use our Ends PP up to get fighting energy onto our End Zoroark, and then energy switch it to our Mega Lucario if we need that in a pinch too, so keep that in mind when you're using it for your gameplay. To add to our gusting effects, we do have 2 Counter Catcher in the list, which is still really good. Most lists should have at least 1 to 2 Counter Catcher in it, and having End Zoroark, where we know we might go behind in the prize trade, having a bigger 3 prize Pokemon in our deck, we want to have this Counter Catcher available to us. That way we can use a supporter and also gust in the same turn. For recovery, we've got 1 Night Stretcher and 1 Super Odd to get back some of our resources if we do discard them and we can't get them back with anything else. We've got, for tool cards here, which is really interesting about the list, 1 Air Balloon, which is pretty standard, and then the Hero's Cape as our ace spec to pump up the value of our HP on every Pokemon available. That way we can avoid knockouts. We really want to be using this on our End Zoroark. That way we can tank up the damage and use Powerful Rage as we copy our End's Reshiram for later in the game too. We've got 2 Artisans for stadiums. That way we can find our little guys that are not EX. And then we've got 5 Dark Energy, 3 Fighting Energy, and 1 Luminous Energy, just in case you mix up your energy counts and you didn't accommodate for getting those energy on the right type of Pokemon that needed the right type of energy, we've got the one Luminous. That way you can mix and match. So that really rounds out the list. Hopefully this is going to work against some big meta decks. I know it'll do good against the majority of the meta, so let's see how it pans out on the PTCG Live ladder. Then we'll move on to TCGmasters.net and practice against the worst matchup that Mega Lucario had, which was Gardevoir EX. That way you can see exactly how the deck is going to work or not going to work. We're going to find out if this list slaps or not, so let's get into it. All right, we're hitting up the ladder. We chose heads here on the flip. So let's see if this pans out for us and see what we're up against. Let's try to play our best against some of the meta decks in the format. I know there's a lot of them out there. This format's wide open. I'm debating on whether I want to go first here. I think that yes is correct. We could go second, but we're an evolving deck. So thinking out loud here, we have to evolve our Pokemon to get where we need to go. So we're going to go ahead and go first. Let's take a look at our opening hand and see what we're setting up with. Okay, so we do have the Enzarua here, which is pretty good. And we've got Buddy Buddy Poffin. We still have a Mega Lucario EX in our hand. We've got some energy and a Hilda. Heroescape in the opening hand, not the best. Okay, so we're up against a Zoroark Lunatone deck. Don't really know what the engine is. There's a lot of decks popping up right now. So let's see. Let's get our Zoro. Oh, actually, let's pump the brakes here. Let's go with a Riolu. So Riolu is going to get us access to our Mega Lucario. So we're going to put an energy on the active here so I can potentially pivot into a Mega Lucario if I have to. And I actually think Heroescape is correct on this turn only, just because we know that 70 damage is just going to amplify our output for later in the game, so we can use our Riotous Beating and knock out this Pokemon regardless. So, okay, so we're playing against Gholdengo Rocks, and we see them getting their full board set up here and not attacking, choosing not to attack at all. And there we go. We just top deck our Enz Reshiram, which is really, really good. So let's go in with Hilda. Hilda's going to get us our Enz Zoroark so we can start trading, and we can even attack this coming turn here. So this is going to go on our active so we can Night Joker and copy Reshiram. Let's evolve up this Pokemon. And honestly, I think just trading away this fighting energy is the play here so we can see some more cards. We don't need it just yet. We can always use it later in the game. And getting Boss in hand is really good. Let's trade away this other Enz Zoroark. We don't want to get rid of the Boss. We'll use Boss later in the game. And we get Enz PP up, so that's good. Nobody loves an Enz PP up more than I do. Let's go ahead and Night Joker and copy Virtuous Flame and just knock out this Zoroark, limiting their draw a little bit. They're going to draw a bazillion cards. And now with this massive 380 hit point Zoroark in the active, I don't know if they have a way of coming back. So let's take a look and see what they get here. Okay, going for the top deck of Gholdengo, and they're putting 2 Dangos in the field already. So they're going to get to draw at least +3 cards. If they get another Zoroark into play here, oh, the Precious Trolley comes out instead. So we see Precious Trolley filling up their board, just getting any Pokemon that they want onto the bench, filling it up with all the fellas here. We see Zoroark and Gimmighoul and Fez come down into play. Really, really good here. So we see all of the resources on their side come into play. Oh, wow. All right, so there's the Earthen Vessel. We're going to see Earthen Vessel just get 2 energy. And do they have enough already? Is their hand all energy? Okay, so Lunar Cycle is going to come into play here. We're going to see them draw more cards. So we know exactly the counts of 1 energy in hand right now. They're going to have to find more energy. They did Lunar Cycle already 1. Are they going to be able to get anything more than just the 1 energy? Okay, so there's another Earthen Vessel. So now we know that they have at least 2 energy in their hand. We can count 1, 2, 3, right? Counting's fun. You learned it in preschool. You're going to use it in Pokemon. Make sure that you're counting. So there's another coin bonus for an extra card. It's Fighting Gong. Fighting Gong's going to get them the 4th energy in their hand. They have just the metal that goes onto the active Dango. Okay, so they're going to try to hit us where it hurts on this Reshiram. Now, we do have Luminous in hand, so we can attack with Mega Lucario. The combo that I see here is we're going to use Boss's Orders, and we could actually bring up Phasandipity here. Hitting for fighting weakness comes in so clutch in this play, and we're going to limit their draw power. And we also have a 340 hit point Pokemon in the active, so it's going to be harder to hit. So let's just use that Boss's Orders without thinking about anything else. And we can even use End's PP up. There's a possibility that we can go in and trade away to get closer to our research. Let's go ahead and use that to our ability. Iona doesn't matter too much here, but Hilda might. I think I want to put this Monkey Dory down just in case they do smack into our Mega Lucario for not enough damage. Maybe put a Dark Energy on it and push some damage over. We don't need Cyrano. We're going to use that. And we can actually bait them with the Toad School over here. So just making sure that they have to hit into our active. We do have Hilda that we can put Toad School in play. And that's just going to abolish their board here. So we are going down to just 3 prize cards left. We have Artisan in hand, so we can go get our other Ends Reshiram from the deck and start swinging if they do take out our Mega Lucario. Now, we do have to be mindful here because we are going to potentially lose 3 prizes with this Mega Lucario going down. They're going for Fighting Gong so they can draw some more cards and potentially get more energy into their hand. They have 4 energy in the discard pile right now. Knowing that, they only have access to 1 superior energy retrieval. That's only 200 damage, still not enough to knock out Mega Lucario. So they will have to get the 4 energy in the discard pile out, plus another 3 energy to swing for 350 damage. Still not impossible. They're playing the Arven now, and we see that Superior come into play. They're going to need a secondary Superior or some way of getting energy in the discard pile. This is their plan here, just to retreat and go into the other Gholdengo to coin bonus for more. We're putting them in such a hard spot here. I don't know if they can actually come back. And they don't. They concede right on the spot. All right, here we're going to be using Abonamed's second place list, which is from the Henry Chow group, and play against this deck. So we've got Gardy on our side right now that we're taking a look at. So I'm going to try to play both decks at the same time. We've got 2 Enzurus coming down. We know that we want Dark Attackers here. We've got our Ends Reshiram. And I think we're just going to go ahead and put our Dark Energy onto the active spot, because potentially we could find a Zoroark next turn to start swinging. I don't feel like we're going to get attacked. So as the Gardy player, I want to establish my Gardevoir. I do want to push some things out of the active with Bundle. I'm just going to start drawing cards. Artisan, I don't know if it matters too much here, but let's see. We can go ahead and potentially put down a Screamtail. I want to put down Enamorous so we can swing a bigger number into these Zoroarks and maybe clean up with some spread damage. Okay, so here's what I want to do on the Zoroark side. Let's take a look at what we have. We can go in and get some things out of our deck. We can thin our deck a little bit more. I want to get Cleffa because our hand is kind of dead right now. So I'm going to use Cleffa. I'm going to waste this ball here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put down Riolu, attach an energy to it. We're going to retreat this because we can get the Dark Energy back. And that helped us thin our hand. So Cleffa was able to draw some cards. I see that we could attach an energy to our active Monkey and attack and take at least the knockout. I think as a Gardy player, I'm safe here to put Artisan into play, and we can use that Artisan. And unfortunately, 2 Ralts have been prized, which happens quite a bit as I've seen playing Gardevoir. Sometimes Gardevoir is a brick, and we just capitalize. So I think it is correct here just to put the Ralts into play, and we can take a knockout in this Monkey Dory that's got 2 energy on it. We are able to put Fez into play now. I want to target down this Ralts. We know that they only have 1. We now can draw into our counter catcher, and we take it out with Aura Jab. So they've only got this Monkey Dory, and I'm going to have to put my Monkey Dory here. Actually, you know, it's not correct. Let's try to draw into recovery options. We didn't get recovery options. That's not great. So I think we're just going to put Dark here and try to confuse the Lucario. Okay, so that's not bad. We're going to put just the Ralts. That feels awful. but it is correct, so we can get Ralts into play. We're going to Mind Bend for 120, which is pretty good on a 3-prizer. We want to hit that a couple times and move some damage counters. They are not going to be able to, or we're not going to be able to, I'm talking in the third person, to be able to one-shot this because it's got a resistance to fighting. Unfortunate. So we're going to have to think a little bit, put our thinking caps on. I'm going to use some energy. We're trying to rethink the energy placement here. And I could just swing into it and then maybe use Turo next turn. So yeah, let's just put the energy on it. I need more Zoroarks in play so they don't target down either my Zorua or the only Zoroark I have. I think we're just going to go, and we do flip heads. We are able to hit for 100. Pretty decent. We could always put Monkey Dory in play if we take damage. That way we can oppose the Monkey Dory. As the Guardy player, we're putting the Curlia in play and just saying, you ain't got it like that. Let's push 30 damage and another 30 damage from our other monkey. Swing for another 120 is probably correct. So we're just going to Mind Bend again. They've got 300. So if we are able to push this 40 damage over, we could take a 3-prize turn and then swing into something else, getting our Guardian play. So that's a little scary. Let's just end PP up here and then trade. I think we're going to pick this thing up. We're going to have to. I really want to target down that Curlia. We don't have Counter Catcher anymore. So we're just going to get rid of the Toad School and go from there. So we got rid of the Toad School. We can attach an energy to something. We could always like attach to the Fez and swing. I don't want to put Riolu in play anymore. We can just Virtuous Flame, get the energy off their field so they can't push it onto our guys anymore. And I'm only going to have, as the Guardy player, one Guardy in play, which feels terrible, but we have to put it in play. Getting Recovery is going to be pretty clutch later in the game, but we need to start drawing surprises. So getting Screamtail and then taking out their Ends Reshiram is probably the play. I could Iono to 4, and that's going to put the hurt onto End Zoroark. Then we see we're going to get some energy into play and go on to the Gardevoir with just 1 energy from the Psychic Embrace. We can push that onto the... well, we're going to load up Screamtail first. Now that does 120. Let's push the Monkey Dory damage from Guardy onto the Reshiram and then snipe it with Roaring Scream. Now their attackers on the Zoroark side are gone. So we are going to have to use something here. So we're just going to get our Zoroarks established. We can get the Pecharunt. We won't need it. Maybe later in the game it'll be scarier. I do want to start trading. So let's start trading. Yeah, I'm trying to think which we should do first. This is a sequencing, and I think it is correct to just start trading. So let's trade away. Okay, so now we can trade away these Lucarios. We'll never need them. The cape is really good here. Yeah, so we don't need Artisan. We can Ends PP up and then always energy switch. I do want to get another Zorua, but we need to find our recovery so we can get our Reshiram back. I can attack with End Zorua, and that's the reasoning, because we can still use the Scratch on here, and then I can Hero's Cape. I don't want them to repeat Screamtail and then knock out our Fez. That would be pretty awful. So I think putting Hero's Cape on Fez here is actually correct. We do want to take damage on the Zoroark, and there's not really a whole lot that they can do. So let's Night Joker to get Scratch, knock out that Screamtail, and go down to 3 prizes and see if they have a response. So as the Guardy player, I want to respond with an Enamorous play. Having 1 Guardy in play is not great, so we need to take a 2-prize knockout. That Caped Fez, it feels really bad. So I think that we're going to go ahead and just get the Vessel here, and then we're going to get another Artisan just for fodder. And then I think getting an Iono to just limit the hand size is going to be really good. Let's Vessel and get Yeah, let's go ahead, vessel this stuff away. We can just recover and go for a monkey, make them think that we got Ralts off our prizes. But we're going to have to push some damage counters. So I'm going to Psychic Embrace, swing for 260, knowing that the only thing that they can do is scratch us right now. Let's push this Monkey Dory damage. Scratch is really just going to do 40 damage to us, and we can push that over and knock out the Zoroark and then take another knockout. So here's where it gets a little scary. We need our recovery as the Zoroark player. That is objective number one. So we're just going to place energy. We're going to get rid of our resources. Boss is really, really good here if we can get Reshiram in play. And there's our recovery. We do find the recovery. We're getting our Reshiram back. I'm going to put 2 other cards in for fodder. Just so we can trade them away later in the game. Things that we don't need but could be helpful. And that's going to be the Toad Scroll line. So we're just going to go in for our Reshiram. We are going to potentially draw 1 off the prizes here. Let's boss up the Lone Guardy and Virtuous Flame, take a knockout, and see if they've got a response. So they could, as a Guardy player, they could take out the Reshiram again. Would be pretty bad. Again, having an Iono here is also pretty bad. So we need to take out the Reshiram. I need to Iono to see more cards. So we didn't get there. Okay, so as the Guardy player, that's really where you'd scoop it up. Not a whole lot happening here. So the only thing that I could go for is to confuse the Zoroark, but it's got too much damage on it, so I can't even confuse it. So we're going to have to put the Fez up and hope for the best. We are recovering our Ralts and seeing what happens, because they can't really swing. They're going to be able to swing regardless. Again, I would just scoop it up as the Guardy player. That is really disgusting. We're going to boss up the lone Ralts, kill it again, and just take the knockout. And that's really how much pressure you can put on with N Zoroark into these Guardy matchups, but you still get to play the Mega Lucario in this matchup to make you feel a little bit better about playing Mega Lucario. So let's talk about all of this together as one big culmination of how the deck works. So we got to see how the combination of Mega Lucario EX and N Zoroark EX just fuse together, draw you a whole bunch of cards, and also be able to hit in those weak spots that Zoroark might have had, and also the weak spots that Mega Lucario used to have. I really have been enjoying this list from Lake, and I hope that you will too. If you're a fan of playing either of these decks, why not slap it together and try playing it on your PTCG Live account? Maybe try some online tournaments and just learn how to play the deck in and out. Maybe you can become the master of the deck as long as you get a few games in it and learn how the sequencing works. And we saw in these games here that there's a lot that goes into resource management. Some things I didn't talk about during the gameplay here are checking your prizes. That's something that we didn't do that we should be practicing, is writing down and seeing how fast we can check our prizes. That way we're not taking up a whole lot of time in our IRL games, and we're also trying to map our prizes. We were talking a little bit about that on where we wanted to focus our damage, and that's something to be mindful of when you're playing decks like this. So hopefully you're enjoying the content that we've been putting out on the channel. Like this video if you enjoyed watching it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more gameplay videos like this. And comment down below on any deck profiles you'd like to see in the future, or other things you'd love to see me talk about here on the channel. One last time, I'm PJ here from How Not to Suck TCG, and we'll catch you next time.